I step out of my chambers, adjust my robe, and take my seat at the bench. The energy in my courtroom is always palpable before I even say a word. People come in here expecting a circus, thinking they can spin their little webs of deceit and I'll just sit here and nod like a bobblehead on a dashboard. They forget whose name is on the wall. I look down at the case file in front of me. A minor car crash. A parking lot fender-bender. The kind of mundane, everyday annoyance that sensible people handle with a quick exchange of insurance information and a handshake, but sensible people don't end up in my courtroom. Sensible people don't try to turn a scratch bumper into a $5,000 payday. I peer over my glasses at the plaintiff. Her name is Amanda Higgins. She's standing at her podium, clutching a binder so thick it looks like she's preparing to argue a Supreme Court case, not a parking lot scrape. She's wearing a neck brace. Of course she is. A foam neck brace that looks so brand new it probably still has the pharmacy receipt stuffed inside it. She's doing that pathetic, trembling lip routine, trying to look fragile. I've been doing this too long. I can smell a performance from a mile away. Then I look at the defendant, Marcus Thorne. He's shifting his weight from one foot to the other, rolling his eyes, arms crossed over a tight polo shirt. He looks arrogant, annoyed, and careless. I don't like him either. He has the demeanor of a man who thinks rules apply to everyone else but him. Two people, entirely full of nonsense, standing in my courtroom, wasting my time. Well, they are about to learn a very hard lesson about what happens when you try to play games with me. Officer Byrd, I say, my voice cutting through the low murmur of the gallery like a gavel strike. Are we ready? Byrd nods. Always ready. I turn my attention back to the plaintiff, Miss Higgins. You are suing Mr. Thorne for $5,000, the maximum allowed in this court. You claim he reversed into your car at a grocery store parking lot, causing massive structural damage to your vehicle, severe whiplash. And let me read this correctly because I want to make sure my eyes aren't failing. Me profound emotional trauma that prevents you from driving to this day. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Miss Higgins says. Her voice is a little too breathy, a little too dramatic. She places a hand on her chest. It was terrifying. I thought I was going to die. I dropped the case file onto the desk with a loud smack. You thought you were going to die. In a Trader Joe's parking lot, going 3 miles an hour, he came out of nowhere. Judge, she insists, her voice rising in pitch. It was like an explosion. Stop right there. I point my pen at her. Don't embellish. I don't care about your feelings. I care about the facts. Feelings aren't facts. You were parked. He was backing out. Your car is a 2008 Honda Civic with a Kelley Blue Book value of maybe $2,000 on its best day, and that's if you leave a $100 bill in the glove compartment. You are asking for $5,000. Explain the math to me, because I went to law school, not magic school. Miss Higgins flusters, opening her giant binder and wildly flipping through pages of what look like printed out internet articles and blurry photographs. Well, Your Honor, the repair estimate for the bumper is $800, but the medical bills, the physical therapy, show me the medical bills, I demand. Pass them to Byrd, right now. I don't want to hear about what you plan to spend. I want to see what you actually spent, out of pocket. She hesitates. The trembling lip stops, replaced by a momentary flash of panic. Well, I haven't actually gone to the physical therapist yet, but my chiropractor said, baloney, I bark, cutting her off instantly. I don't care what your chiropractor said in passing. I care about sworn medical documentation from a physician. You didn't go to a doctor. You went to a pharmacy, bought a $12 foam collar, and decided you had hit the lottery. Take that ridiculous thing off your neck, Miss Higgins. You're turning your head just fine. I saw you looking around the gallery when you walked in. You're not injured. You're an opportunist. She slowly reaches up and unfastens the neck brace, her face flushing bright red. The gallery stays dead silent. They know better than to make a sound when I'm getting to the truth. I pivot to the defendant. Marcus Thorne has a smug little smirk on his face. He thinks he's winning. He thinks because I just tore into the plaintiff, he's off the hook. He's wrong. Wipe that smile off your face, Mr. Thorne, or I'll wipe it off for you, I snap. The smirk vanishes instantly. You're not sitting in the audience watching a show. You're the defendant. You hit her car. Did you or did you not reverse your SUV into her vehicle? Judge, I barely tapped her, Thorne says, throwing his hands up in a defensive gesture. It was just a scratch. She's crazy. She jumped out of her car screaming like a banshee. There was zero damage to my bumper. I told her I'd give her $50 to buff it out, but she called the cops. I didn't ask you for a character assessment of the plaintiff. I asked you a very simple question. Did your vehicle strike her vehicle? Yes, but I hold up my hand, stopping him dead in his tracks. There is no but. But means you're about to make an excuse. You were operating a 3-ton machine. You have mirrors. You have a backup camera. You have a neck that turns. Why didn't you see her? She must have been in my blind spot, Your Honor. I looked. If you looked, you would have seen her. Cars do not magically drop out of the sky into your blind spot. You were careless. You were probably looking at your phone or thinking about what kind of overpriced organic cereal you just bought. You backed into a stationary object. Thorne puffs out his chest a little, clearly not used to being spoken to this way by anyone, let alone a woman in a robe. Judge, with all due respect, she was parked illegally in a fire lane. I didn't expect a car to be there. I freeze. I stare at him. The courtroom is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I slowly pick up my pen again. I look at the police report. Then I look back at Thorne. Is that right, Mr. Thorne? She was parked illegally, I ask, my voice dropping to a dangerously calm register. Yes, ma'am. Right in the red zone. I turn my eyes back to Miss Higgins, who is suddenly looking down at her shoes, gripping the edges of her podium so hard her knuckles are white. I have an instinct about these things, a gut feeling that has been sharpened over decades on the bench. Someone in this room is lying, and it's not just about a sore neck. The puzzle pieces aren't fitting together. If she was parked in the fire lane right outside the store, and he was backing out of a designated parking spot, the geometry of the crash in the police photos doesn't make sense. The angle of the impact on her rear bumper and his rear bumper tells a completely different story. I look at the photos again, I look at her, I look at him, and then, just like that, the lie reveals itself. It's glowing like a neon sign in the dark. Miss Higgins, I say, leaning forward and resting my forearms on the bench. Look at me. She reluctantly lifts her head. You weren't parked, were you? She stammers. Don't play games with me, madam. I eat liars for breakfast, and I'm very hungry. You weren't parked. Miss Higgins stammers, her eyes darting toward the exit like a trapped mouse. Is not an answer. Is what you say when you are frantically trying to invent a new lie to cover up the old lie that just fell apart. I say, my voice ringing off the wood-paneled walls, I ask you again, and let me remind you that you are under oath, which still means something in this room, even if it means nothing to you. Were you moving? I might have been just inching back, Your Honor, just a little bit, to see around the van next to me. Inching! I throw my hands up. Inching is moving, madam. A glacier inches, and it still carves out a valley. So you were not parked. You were in reverse. You were backing out of your spot at the exact same moment, mister. Thorne was backing out of his spot across the aisle. Neither of you was looking. Both of you were careless. And you bumped into each other. Miss Higgins grasps the edges of her binder, her knuckles practically translucent now. But he hit me harder. I actually laugh. A short, sharp bark of disbelief. He hit you harder? What is this? Kindergarten? Are we in a sandbox? The laws of physics do not care about your feelings, Miss Higgins. Two vehicles moving in reverse, colliding in the middle of a parking lot aisle, share equal responsibility for failing to yield. But that's not enough for you, is it? You couldn't just accept that you made a mistake. You saw an SUV, you saw a man in a nice polo shirt, and your eyes turned into slot machine reels. Ding, 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 jackpot. I grab the photograph she submitted and hold one up so the entire courtroom can see it. Let's look at this horrific, life-altering structural damage. Bird, take this to her. I want her to look closely at the gold mine she thought she found. Bird retrieves the photo and holds it up in front of her face. Do you see the scratch on your bumper, Miss Higgins? I ask. Yes, Your Honor. It's completely ruined. Ruined. Fascinating choice of word. Now, do you see the gray residue around the edge of that scratch and the fact that the paint is peeling outward, not pushed inward? Do you see the rust forming inside the deepest part of that gouge? She squints at the photo, her jaw tightening. Well, yes, but... Shh. I am speaking. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth? I suggest you use them in that proportion. You claim this accident happened on a Tuesday. The police report was filed the same day. These photos were taken on a Wednesday. Do you expect me to believe that a deep structural gouge rusted over in 24 hours in the middle of a dry California summer? Silence. Beautiful, damning silence. You don't get rust in 24 hours, I say, my tone dropping to a deadly cold register. You get rust over months. That damage was already there. You had a pre-existing scrape on your bumper, probably from backing into a pole because, as we've established, you don't look where you're going. When Mr. Thorne tapped your car, you decided to pin the old damage on him. You lied to the police. You lied to your insurance company. You bought a $12 piece of foam for your neck. And you waltzed in here thinking I have stupid written across my forehead. Miss Higgins is completely deflated. The theatrical posture is gone. She's staring at the floor, humiliated. Good. Humiliation is a fantastic teacher. But I'm not finished. I turn my glare to the other side of the courtroom. Marcus Thorne has his chest puffed out again. He's grinning. He actually has the audacity to chuckle. You think this is funny, Mr. Thorne? I snap, whipping my head toward him. The chuckle dies in his throat. No, Your Honor. I knew she was a fraud. Oh, you're a genius now, a regular Sherlock Holmes. Well, put your magnifying glass away, Mr. Thorne, because I'm looking at you next, and I don't like what I see either. I pick up the police report again and tap it with my index finger. You told me just 3 minutes ago that she was parked illegally in a fire lane, a red zone. You were very specific about that. Yes, Judge, she was. He nods firmly, trying to regain his confident posture. No, she wasn't. We just established she was backing out of a parking space across the aisle from you. She just admitted it. So why did you tell me she was in a fire lane? Thorne shifts his weight. The arrogance starts to crack. Well, the way she was angled, it looked like she had come from the fire lane. I just assumed. Baloney, I shout, slapping the desk. You didn't assume anything. You lied. You backed into a car because you weren't paying attention. You realized you were at fault. And you decided to invent a story about her being parked illegally to shift the blame. You figured if she was breaking the law by being in a red zone, your careless driving would be excused. Judge, I barely touched her car. That is not the point. The point is you stood in front of me and lied. You are 2 peas in a pod, a match made in heaven. 2 irresponsible, dishonest adults who can't take accountability for a simple mistake. Instead of exchanging information and letting the insurance companies handle a shared fault accident, you both decided to construct elaborate fairy tales. You, I point to Higgins, wanted a free repair job and a fake personal injury payout. And you, I point to Thorne, wanted to lie your way out of a premium hike. I lean back in my leather chair, letting the silence hang in the air to ensure they both feel the full weight of their own foolishness. The gallery is entirely motionless. They know the climax of this absolute farce has arrived. You both think you're so clever, I say, my voice quiet but laced with absolute disgust. You think the justice system is a game, a little slot machine you can pull the lever on, hoping to get lucky. But you walked into the wrong casino I gather the messy stack of papers, photographs, and the ridiculous binder Miss Higgins hauled in here, and I shove them all to the side of my desk. I don't need them anymore. The truth isn't in those papers. The truth is standing right in front of me, looking thoroughly dismantled. Here is what is going to happen, I announce, leaning forward, my eyes fixed firmly on the two litigants. Miss Higgins, you sued for $5,000 based on fraudulent medical claims, pre-existing vehicle damage, and a complete fabrication of the events leading up to the collision. Not only are you getting nothing, absolutely zero, zilch, nada, but I am keeping these photos and the transcripts of your testimony today. Because if you try to submit this claim to your insurance company after today, that is insurance fraud, which is a felony. Do you understand me? Miss Higgins nods, a tiny, pathetic movement. Yes, Your Honor. Speak up. The court reporter needs to hear you. Yes, Your Honor, she croaks. The neck brace is still clutched in her hand like a dead bird. And you, I turn my sights on Thorne. His confident smirk is a distant memory. He looks like a schoolboy waiting outside the principal's office. You countersued for $200 for time lost dealing with this nonsense. Let me be perfectly clear. Your time is not worth 2 cents, let alone $200. You were equally negligent in the operation of your vehicle, and you lied to this court about the circumstances of the accident to protect your own ego and your insurance rates. Your countersuit is dismissed. But Judge Thorne starts raising a hand. Ah, I shout, slamming my hand flat on the desk. I am ruling. When I am ruling, you do not speak. Your mouth is closed. Your ears are open. Is that clear? He swallows hard. Yes, Your Honor. You are both responsible for your own damage. Whatever scratch is on your bumper, Mr. Thorne, you pay for it yourself. And whatever imaginary trauma you have, Miss Higgins, you deal with it on your own dime. And frankly, you should both consider yourselves incredibly lucky. In a real court, a criminal court, perjury, which is lying under oath in case either of you is confused about the definition, carries a penalty of jail time. You came in here trying to hustle the system, and all you did was expose yourselves as foolish, dishonest people. I pick up my gavel. The finality of the moment hangs thick in the air. The next time you back out of a parking space, use your mirrors. And the next time you think about lying to a judge, look in the mirror and ask yourself if you look smart enough to pull it off, because let me assure you, neither of you do. Bang. Case dismissed. We're done. Get out. I stand up immediately, not giving them a single second to argue, complain, or offer another flimsy excuse. I turn my back on them and head straight for my chambers. I don't need to look back to know exactly what is happening behind me. Bird is ushering them out. They are walking down the aisle in stunned silence, their grand plans of an easy payout completely shattered. They thought they were the smartest people in the room. They weren't even close. I pull off my robe as soon as I cross the threshold of my office. Another day, another pair of charlatans trying to turn a molehill into a gold mine. It never changes. People will always try to get something for nothing, and they will always lie to avoid taking responsibility. It's human nature. But as long as I'm sitting on that bench, human nature is going to have to answer to the truth. And the truth doesn't care about your neck brace, your fancy polo shirt, or your hurt feelings. The truth just is. I sit down at my desk, take a sip of water, and look at the next case file. A dispute over a pedigree dog that isn't actually a pedigree. I sigh, a small, wry smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Bring them in. I'm just getting started.